Do you have an older car with a bad catalytic converter and the dreaded P420 code? I'll show you what might fix it. I'll also show you what will fix it. But you shouldn't do it. Seriously, don't do what I'm about to show you. Hola! I'm Mike, the backyard mechanic, and this is the Lexus. Its check engine light came on. I ran my OBD2 scanner and got the dreaded P420 code. The P420 code signals a low catalyst system efficiency that the downstream sensor has detected that the oxygen levels are below the threshold on bank 1. Off the top of my head, I got a bad cat. Specifically, the catalytic converter on the passenger side is malfunctioning. There are actually a dozen things that can trigger this code. Most were easily ruled out, leaving a dirty cat. How do I know it's dirty? By checking the tailpipe. The Pilot, Mustang, and Lexus all have over 100,000 miles. Here's what is in the Pilot tailpipe. Just a little soot. Pretty clean, actually. Here's the Mustang. A little dirtier, but not bad. Here's the Lexus. You can see it is pitch black, but what you can't see is it's kind of thick, too. I just replaced the spark plugs on the Lexus. And the production is coming soon. Thanks to desperate theaters due to the actors' strike, I'll be on the big screen.
That's hot.
Anyway, there was an oily film inside the intake. I'm guessing this is from the EGR valve and that the piston rings are a little worn. So should the cat be replaced? It should, but no. I don't want to spend $1,500 for a car with 175,000 miles on it. That just ain't right! Even the cheap ones are close to $1,000. And even if I wanted to spend that money, the IS250 is not fun to work on. It is small and the engine compartment is cramped with a 2.5-liter V6 and an all-wheel drive, which makes some things impossible without pulling the damn engine, like getting to the bolts on the exhaust manifolds. Seriously, you have to pull the engine to change a tire. I don't know why. It says it in the manual. I thought maybe I'll get a catalytic converter cleaner, but this is $30. So I looked for a cheaper option. There's a lot of internet jibber-jabber about using lacquer thinner, which would be about half the cost of the cleaner. But after significant research, lacquer thinner seems to only be good for making thin lacquer. So here's what I did, and what I recommend. I went with Cataclean, mainly because they had it at O'Reilly's, but it also turns out to have the best reviews. An important note, read the instructions. I put it in with a full tank, and that is not what you are supposed to do. But guess what? It worked. My daughter informed me that after about 100 miles, the check engine light turned off. Many testimonials around the internet say the same thing. However, it did not work for my friend Joe the Cheapskate. His light came back on after 100 miles. He's going to try to use the cleaner every few months or so. He has until next year to clear it up for the emissions test. So what do you do if the light comes on and your emissions test is coming up? I'll show you. But don't do it. Don't do it. The emissions police will show up at your door and put your car in jail. Here is a diagram of the engine's exhaust. There are two sensors. The first one, the upstream sensor, detects if the engine is running rich or lean. It has nothing to do with the catalytic converter. The downstream sensor monitors the cat to determine if it is in working order. It wouldn't work to disconnect or cut the sensor. This will trigger a code in the check engine light. Instead, pulling the sensor out of the path of the exhaust flow by inserting a spacer will minimize, but not completely eliminate, the sensor's ability to read the unfiltered gases. This minimal reading will keep the warning light off and the ECU happy. To install the spacers, I first jacked up the car. To save time, I jacked up both sides at once. For a few days before doing this work, multiple times, I soaked the sensors with penetration spray. On most cars, the downstream sensors are pretty accessible, as they are with this Lexus. The shield was bent on this one, and I needed something pretty strong to bend it back. I have this box of tools that I use to replace broken iPhone screens for my daughter. Aha! This will work. Using the iPhone tool, I straightened out the shield. I put the O2 socket on and used a wobble end extension to get at it on a bit of an angle. This is a Southern car, so only a couple of zaps from the impact wrench broke it free. I avoided going full blast and wrapping the wire around it like spaghetti. Some cars, like the Mustang, have the connectors accessible. The Lexus engineers completely lacked foresight that the driver's side sensor would ever have to come off, as the wire runs through the floor, under the driver's seat, so that disconnecting it is not the preferred option. No, I don't know what I'd do if the sensor needed replacement. Pull the engine, I guess. The sensor wire is attached to the frame, so the fasteners need to be popped off because I need at least 12 inches of wire in order to do about 5 full turns to remove the sensor. The passenger side has only a few inches and no slack. And I need more slack, Captain! The wire goes through the floor and under the carpet near the dash. The connector is by the console. I disconnected it and pushed it through the floor. A quick blast with the impact wrench breaks the sensor free and it can now be removed. Now for the spacers. O2 spacers are illegal. They are not sold at O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Advance Auto Parts, or even Amazon. What I did, knowing the thread size of my sensor is an 18 by 1.5, is buy a pair of spark plug non-foulers for only $10. These are typically used to keep oil off of spark plugs, but by drilling out the end, I can convert them into O2 spacers. When it's done, it will look like these O2 spacers from Walmart. Okay, I'm a little bit slow, but wait, I'm figuring this out. Walmart has O2 spacers. Go figure. So you can totally ignore this part where I put the spark plug non-fouler in this vise and use a 1/2-inch high-speed steel tool bit with some oil for lubrication to carefully drill out the end without damaging the threads. Just pretend that didn't happen and I bought the spacers from Walmart and screwed them into the bung on the exhaust pipe and tightened it up. Then I twisted the cord counterclockwise about 5 turns so it would untwist as I screwed in the sensor. When this is done, I notice that the spacer brings the sensor too close to the frame of the car and I can no longer get the socket on it. So pretend that didn't happen too. After briefly considering pulling the engine, I took it back apart, put the spacer on the sensor, and tightened them together with the O2 socket and an adjustable wrench. Then I repeated the process of twisting the cord and screwing in the sensor, and then tightening the spacer to the bung with that adjustable wrench. After both sensors were in place, I reattached the cord to the frame on the driver's side. On the passenger side, the cord is fished back up through the floor, up under the dash, and reconnected. I tucked the carpet back into place. Done! There have been a few thousand miles put on the Lexus since, and no light, no codes. And yes, the car passed inspection. Being that the spacers are illegal, I immediately removed them from the car and disposed of them properly. If you'd like to know how I did that, play everything I just did backwards. This video was for entertainment purposes only. Speaking of entertainment, I have a fan online. Wait, let me guess. You weren't paying attention and I wasn't funny.
That video was wonderful. You're a good boy.
Thanks, Mom! Are you dying of curiosity to know how I'm keeping my mic out of the video frame? You can learn how I do it by watching this video. It's not about cars, but it's the funniest one I've done. By far. Until this one.